Hey there, I'm Christina Johnson, certified transformational nutrition coach, owner of Christina Johnson Wellness, and I am really excited today because I have a interesting and really important topic to share with you, and that is food sensitivities. This is an issue that I know, I see this all the time with different clients that I work with. It is one of the biggest obstacles that prevents people from being able to lose weight and to really feeling good. And it's interesting how once people identify if they have a food sensitivity and then start avoiding that food, it becomes so much easier to lose weight and people start to feel better pretty quickly, whether that's having more energy, whether it is, just having less joint pain, less acne, less skin issues. It's pretty amazing all the benefits that you can see by understanding what food sensitivities are and addressing that. So today, I just want to explain what food sensitivities are, some of the problems that they can cause for you, how to figure out if you have them, and what to do about it. So I think that if you pay attention to this and just take some action on what I'm telling you about, you can see some pretty big changes in a pretty relatively short amount of time. And if you think this information would be helpful for other people, would you go ahead and just hit the share button and share this information with other people as well? I would really appreciate that. Okay, so let's start with what food sensitivities are. Basically, a food sensitivity happens when you eat a food that your body just does not digest very well. Your body is just kind of sensitive or intolerant to that food. And so what happens is that when you continue to eat that food that you're sensitive to because you don't know you're sensitive to it, then your immune system starts to react. It responds to that food that is not agreeing with your body. And when your immune system continues to respond to that food that you continue to eat, then that begins to increase the levels of inflammation within your body. And the problem is that when we have long-term inflammation that adds up in our body throughout days and weeks and years, that becomes really problematic. And it's interesting that there's a lot of doctors that agree that inflammation really is the root of most diseases. I was doing some research on this topic earlier today, and I came across a report from the Harvard Medical School that said that inflammation is linked to diseases like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's. It's a pretty scary list of diseases. And so anything that we can do to reduce inflammation is going to not only help us feel better and lose weight, but it's going to really reduce our risk of disease in the future as well. So it's a pretty important topic to pay attention to. And there can be lots of different sources of inflammation, but food sensitivities is one that does create inflammation. So the problem with food sensitivities is they're causing this inflammation, and they can show up as a variety of different symptoms. So sometimes if you're eating a food you're sensitive to, it might show up as joint pain, like you just feel stiff and achy. For other people, maybe it's headaches, even migraines sometimes. For other people, it might be skin issues like acne or dry skin, itchy skin. I know that's for me, like my back will start itching when I eat corn, which is a food that I can be sensitive to. It can cause, weight gain, or just it leads to water retention, which makes it difficult to lose weight. There's just, a variety of different symptoms that can show up. But the thing with food sensitivities are that they're different than a food allergy. So a food allergy, as most of you know, it's a pretty immediate response. Like you can tell right away when you're eating a food you're allergic to, and it's a pretty severe response, sometimes even life-threatening. Well, a food sensitivity doesn't always happen right away. I mean, it can happen shortly after you eat a food, but it could also wait up to 72 hours to show up as a symptom for you. And so it can be really difficult to figure out which foods are causing you these issues because it could be something that you've eaten within the past 72 hours. Excuse me. So that's kind of what food sensitivities are and how they show up. And the thing is, I know from personal experience that I used to suffer from a lot of these issues. I would have headaches on a regular basis. My joints would hurt. I'd wake up and just feel stiff. I didn't always feel well rested when I woke up in the morning. I would get tired in the afternoon. My knee hurt, I had acne. There's a variety of different symptoms that I faced. I had no idea that foods I was eating at the time was causing me those issues. But once I removed all those like inflammatory foods from my diet and started figuring out which foods my body tolerates and which ones it doesn't, it was amazing how within just a few weeks, a lot of those issues I talked about just went away. I mean, the headaches became much less frequent. I was waking up feeling refreshed in the morning, no stiffness or achiness at all. My stomach was feeling great. I wasn't feeling nauseous or upset like it was before. And so, I think what happens is that a lot of us, we start to have these like little aches and pains or these little health annoyances. It's nothing major usually. And so we just think it's kind of a normal part of life, or we just get used to it. But as I noticed for myself, once I removed those foods and felt really good for 3 weeks, there was no way I was going back to how I felt before, because I knew how good I could feel. And I will tell you, though, that it's interesting to me that, even I personally still have setbacks. I recently, over Thanksgiving, went to Italy for 10 days. And I came back, and after, going on vacation, it always takes me a while to just kind of get back into my health routine. And then coming back in December with the holidays, I haven't been eating horribly, but I haven't been as careful about what I eat as I usually am. So I've been eating more sugar than normal. I've been eating a lot more dairy than normal, which is a food that I'm sensitive to if I eat too much of it, especially if it's not good quality dairy. I've also been eating a lot more tomatoes, which again is something else for me that I'm just sensitive to. And so I've been eating these foods that I'm sensitive to, and I can tell I don't know how to explain it, but I can just feel like the inflammation is settling in my body. I just feel stiffer, a little more achy. The other day, I was sitting at the table for a while, and I stood up, and it kind of hit me because it took me a minute to stand up, and I felt like my back was just stiff, and I just felt much older than my 38 years. And that was kind of a wake-up call to me that, I know that I am not feeling as good as I normally do, and I don't want this to continue. I don't want to feel this way. And so by knowing specifically which foods bother me, it's pretty easy for me to just stop eating those foods and to get back on track. And I can tell you, I will start eating well, and within just a few days, I'll feel like my old self again. And so that is the power of understanding which foods bother your body negatively. So the question then is, well, how do you figure out what foods bother you? And you can do blood work. There's, like an IgG immune response test. And I've done that, and it'll test, I think the one I did tested 98 different foods to let me know which foods, I'm having an immune response to. And that was good, and it was helpful, but honestly, it was almost a little overwhelming, and it wasn't as practical as I would have liked. The best approach that I have found for myself and for other people is to do what's often referred to as an elimination protocol. So basically, what you do is you take the top foods that tend to be problematic for people, and you avoid eating them for a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. And so those foods, the most common food sensitivities are gluten, dairy, corn, soy, nightshades, which are like peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, white potatoes. Sugar, it's not necessarily a sensitivity, but it's just a very inflammatory food. Yeast tends to be a food that people are sensitive to. Peanuts, and artificial sweeteners is another inflammatory ones. So that's a really good place to start. So you take those foods, 8 or 9, how many ever I just listed, and you just avoid eating them for 3 to 4 weeks. And I know it can feel a little overwhelming at first, and you might just be thinking, well, if I'm not eating that, what am I going to be eating? But I promise you, there are lots of delicious foods that you can still eat. I led people through a 21-day detox back in April, and we removed all of those foods. And I think some people were a little nervous at the beginning about what they would be eating, but almost everyone at the end told me that they really did enjoy the food they were eating, that actually their food tasted better, and they found a lot of new healthy recipes that they would continue. So it seems a little daunting to remove all those foods, but it really, once you get into it, it's not that bad. So anyway, so you remove those foods, and you remove them completely for 3 to 4 weeks, and you just focus on eating really good quality food, lots of plants and vegetables and fruit, and good quality meat and good quality fats. Then at the end of that time, you start reintroducing those 9 foods, but you want to reintroduce them slowly, and the key is one at a time. So for example, you might decide to reintroduce corn. So you'd have corn, and ideally, you want to eat it every day, 2 or 3 times a day, and you do that for 3 days. Because remember I said it can take up to 72 hours to have a reaction to a food. So for 3 days, you're just eating that corn, a couple times a day for 3 days, and you just pay really close attention and see, are any of your old symptoms returning? Are you getting headaches again, or joint pain, or not sleeping very well, or is acne showing up again, or having sinus issues? And if any old symptoms return, then you know that that food is probably bothering you in some way. So you just want to stop eating it. It doesn't mean you have to stop forever. There's certain foods that, once you work on healing your gut and just improving your health overall, sometimes you can reintroduce them in a few months. But for now, you'd want to stop eating that. But if you reintroduce corn and notice no negative symptoms coming back, then that's a pretty good bet that that food is safe for you to eat. So then you try adding in another food. Maybe you try nightshades. You try eating some tomatoes. And so you'd eat the tomatoes for a couple days, for 3 days, a couple times a day, and see if that causes you any issues. And so, it's a really, really interesting process, because you will get so in tune with your body and you will really figure out how different foods are affecting you. And the great news is that once you have that information, you have it. So just because, let's say, corn bothers you, doesn't mean you don't ever get to eat corn again, but it means now that you know that corn is potentially inflammatory to you, and then it's your choice. You have that information and you get to choose. Maybe, and for me, so corn is an inflammatory food for me. I'm sensitive to it. And so to be honest, I don't avoid it 100% of the time. I probably avoid it 95% of the time. Every now and then, I just decide it's worth it to have a few corn chips, or it's worth it to have some popcorn. I don't do it often because I do know it bothers me, but again, it's my choice. And now I know, now that my joints are feeling stiff and achy, now that I haven't been eating as clean as I want to for the last few weeks, now I know exactly what foods I need to stay away from in order to feel like myself again. And so that's the amazing benefit of doing like an elimination protocol like this, because you get all this information and you get to experience how good it feels when your body isn't inflamed from all these foods. And it's pretty amazing when you can wake up in the morning and feel good and no stiff and achiness and feel refreshed. And when you can, go through your day and have lots of energy and no stomach issues, no digestive issues, and you're losing weight. It's a really good feeling, and it's pretty motivating then to continue eating that way because you feel so amazing. So, like I said, I know it can feel a little daunting to do this on your own. I know it was for me when I first did it, but it's totally possible, and it's definitely something you kind of just use the tips that I gave you today to create your own plan. If, though, you are overwhelmed by doing it on your own, I wanted to let you know that I will be offering another 21-day detox in mid-January. It's a time when a lot of us are, interested in working on our health goals. And so I think a 21-day detox is a great way to jumpstart the new year. And so this is a process. It's the one of the goals of the process is to try and eliminate those food sensitivities and identify what may be bothering you. There's other purpose and benefits to this detox as well, but I can just promise you that when I did this detox back in April, we had 25 people go through it. And it was just so much fun to see the amazing results and the changes that people can experience. And honestly, I would say by the end of week 1, they're starting to notice some really good improvements. And by the end of the program, nobody was telling me that it was a miserable experience, that it was too hard, or they were hungry all the time. And so that's the best part, is that you can do this in a way that's enjoyable, that makes you feel good, that you get to eat good food that tastes good, and then feel amazing as a result. So just know that will be coming up in January, so kind of keep your eyes and ears open for that. that. If you want to make sure that I let you know as soon as the registration is open, you can sign up on my waitlist for the detox. You can just go to ChristinaJohnsonWellness.com/detox. I will put that link above the video when I'm done here. But you can just go there, sign up, and then as soon as registration is open, I will let you know that it's open. And the benefit to doing that as well is that I'm going to offer a special early bird discount for a limited time. So if you get notified right away, you'll have a good chance of being able to catch that discount. So if you have any questions about food sensitivities, let me know. I'm curious, have you noticed, are there foods that you are sensitive to? Anything in particular? So let me know in the comments. It's always interesting to hear what foods people are sensitive to and, just whether or not you've noticed that. Or maybe if you've never noticed before, let me know that too in the comments that you haven't noticed. And also if you're interested in trying to identify what your food sensitivities are, I'd be curious to hear who's up for trying that as well. I know that I personally am looking forward to doing this detox in January just to really kind of jumpstart my goals for the new year and to get back on track with where I want to be with my eating after the holidays. And so I would love to have as many of you join me as possible. So if you have questions, put them in the comments. If you enjoyed this information, would you please share the video so that other people can hear it as well? And be sure to sign up for the wait list so you get all the information as soon as the registration is open. I will talk to you later. Bye.